Alright, so I was browsing Reddit the other day and I came across a post that used this meme template. You've all probably seen it at some point, and it still kind of throws me back, like just how prevalent and how common to this day shit like this is. I think it's kind of fucking racist. It's so widely used and it seems like no one calls it out as such, but I really feel like it is. And there's a reason it's like big black dudes and like this petite white girl, right? It's playing into the idea of black men being like these big, scary, powerful things, and white women being like very pure, something that's getting defiled. The taboo shit that comes with, oh, she's fucking a black guy. Like, oh, watch her get blacked. The black bull cucking the white wife. The 12-inch BBC. What about all the brothers out there that have like a normal sized dick? How are they gonna feel about all this? I don't know. I feel all this is like very otherizing, to use a mega soy term for a second. Anyway, I find a lot of ways that race intersects with like attraction and fetishes and stuff pretty odd. Take Yellow Fever, for example, which describes like men that fetishize Asian women. Those dudes that gotta have their sugoi kawaii waifus, right? And it very rarely seems to be the other way, where, white women fetishize like Asian men, right? And I think there's a reason for that. So, okay, like if you just generally just have a preference for how Asian females look, then that's fine. But I think in a lot of cases, it goes beyond that. I think a lot of weird stereotypes, like Asian women being viewed as very demure and innocent and pure, almost childlike, actually. I think all that plays into it, and like why a lot of dudes are into that shit. And the opposite is true too. Like a lot of Asian chicks are into white dudes. And I don't think that's always just a purely like physical attractiveness thing. I think it's sometimes like a subconscious thought of like, oh, these people are just purer or like a better breed or something, I find anyone who has like either super exclusionary or super inclusionary, as in they hardcore prefer certain ethnicities or races, I find all these people kind of suspicious. I think those sentiments usually might come from like a weird place. Look, obviously people will have certain preferences, and if that happens to generally fall along some racial lines, that's fine. Like, I generally prefer skin tones that range between slightly lighter to slightly darker than me. Basically, anywhere from a tanned white chick to a light-skinned black chick. Think like, I don't know, Jessica Alba to Halle Berry, right? Those are things I generally prefer compared to people that are super pale or super dark, right? But being super pale or super dark is not necessarily a deal breaker by any means. In fact, in some cases, a person looks better because they are super pale or super dark. It may suit like their overall look. Like, I also, for example, generally prefer brunettes over blondes. But prime Jennifer Aniston was still hot as fuck, right? And being blonde was part of that. And I take people in and how they look as kind of like full packages, I'm not cross-referencing a written checklist of things I like to see if this person meets my criteria or something. And it sometimes feels to me that that's what other people are doing, especially with race. It's not even like the physical features or the skin tone. It's like, oh, just by knowledge that this person is black makes me feel a certain way about them. I was talking to a dude the other day and he was set up on a blind date. And he was telling me that it just straight away did not work out for him because it was with an Asian chick and he said he was not into Asian chicks. And, I didn't stop him and go like, oh, well, what did you mean by that or anything? Like start fucking debating him on the spot or some shit. But my SJW fucking brain did kind of go there. I was like, well, what does that mean, Like, is it just the fact that she's Asian or was it like a set of features that you just didn't find physically attractive? And I was thinking something like, well, would it be possible for this person in a hypothetical world if they could change some of the physical features of this Asian chick such that she becomes attractive to this dude while remaining like clearly Asian? Is that possible? And if the answer is no, then that's fine. That doesn't necessarily have to come from like a super racist place. But I think in a lot of cases, this kind of thing does come from a racist place. I don't know. That's the feeling I get. I think you can change like certain preferences about you if you think about them or whatever over time, but certain things are just going to be so ingrained that you can't. Whether that's primarily naturally or societally ingrained, in some cases it's so like deep in there it's hard to figure out. So I'm not saying like, oh, if you prefer certain types of people or whatever, that makes you like a super racist person or anything, but it possibly might be a bit. And look, that's nothing to be super ashamed of, but I would say most people are at least a little bit racist, right? But I think it's just something worth examining or thinking about. Though my hunch is, and this has already begun to be fair, that it will become less and less of a thing as time goes on, as like people mix more and beauty standards change and whatever. So maybe talking about it is pointless because this is inevitably going to shift. But yeah, this is something that still sort of happens, and I was just thinking about this stuff. All right, that's all. Till next time, peace.